Welcome. You are listening. Welcome. You are listening to The Travel Winds, hosted by Pete Kotzbach. This is a weekly interview show about people who travel for work and all the ups and downs that go along with it. Each episode includes a variety of discussions with athletes, business people, musicians, influencers, entertainers, and even regular folks from around the world. Thanks for listening. Here we go.
Welcome to the show. Today, my guest is singer, author, coach, speaker, Julia Langley. How are you today, Julia?
I'm great. I'm so excited to be on here with you. Thank you for having me today.
It's going to be
Halloween.
Exactly. No more scary stories.
No more.
Yeah, we'll leave that to everyone else. Yeah. So super excited to talk to you. As a fan of Cirque du Soleil, and then knowing I watch a lot of documentaries behind the scenes, so like how they get the performers, how the auditions and all that. So I can imagine how much work it is traveling. So I mean, I guess we'll start with the singing because that's kind of your start ground, right?
That's exactly right. And I've been singing my entire life since I was 2 years old, and just growing in that part of my career as an entertainer and stepped into it. I just went and auditioned. Of course, I had my own show. I was performing in the Southeastern United States with my own one-woman show. And I actually was given tickets to go see Cirque du Soleil for my birthday. And I went to see them and I absolutely fell in love. It was the first time I'd seen it. And I said, I want to work for them.
Sign me up.
Yeah. And so I did. I found out how I could audition. I went and auditioned, and the rest is history. Here we are several years later. And I've had an amazing time traveling all over the world, 20 different countries.
There, yeah.
Yeah, all over the world. And working, and it is difficult. You brought up the difficult part. There you have to love it. Because traveling, if you don't love traveling, then you see that negative side of the traveling and getting up at all hours of the night. Yeah, the jet lag. I can remember traveling overseas. Let me think. It was actually Korea where I was, and I can remember, the 13 hours ahead. And I can remember that we didn't get in until we got in. It was like 7 p.m. their time. Of course, that's going to be early in the morning our time.
Yeah.
So we didn't sleep because our bodies are all out of whack, right? We went right into rehearsals the next morning at 8 a.m. So by 5 o'clock the afternoon, I looked around the room and I literally saw people leaning.
Yeah.
They were standing sideways and I was like woozy. It was almost like being like, I don't know, when you drink too much or something like that. It was jet lag, of course, because our sleep was off. But and the thing is that you still have to work under those conditions. And so that's when it becomes really difficult, is performing at a peak level when your body is saying, what are you doing? What are you doing to me?
Yeah. But
so I would say that's the hardest part of the travel. But for me, it's worth it because I'm a travel bug. So I love it. And I take advantage of every single second. I say, I'll sleep later. Let me just really feel where I am. That's exactly right. Exactly right. I was faced with that choice several times, and I always chose.
So you grew up singing, right? I'm assuming. You seem like you have that voice.
Yes.
Did you know that singing for Cirque would cause you to travel, and that was part of the attraction? Or was it just like, oh, okay, I got the job, oh, now I have to travel even better?
No, well, I've always been a bit adventurous. So, working in Cirque, working for the circus is a bit of an adventure in itself. When I first auditioned, I auditioned for a touring show, so I could travel, but I didn't get the touring show. I got a resident show that I was in for a while. So but I did get to go and live somewhere else for a little while. So that was the start of it. After that, I was actually put into touring shows after that, where I was the mainstay of most of the rest of my career, either doing small tours where I would go to a city, stay for a while, move to the next city, or it even evolved after that into fly in, fly out type of activities where I would go for 3 or 4 days and come home, which I really enjoyed those kind of shows too. We call those industrials or corporate style shows. So, I've done a little bit of it all. The casino runs, I've done the Broadway series tours, the corporate shows, the industrials. Yeah.
How do you describe your voice to people?
Well, I am a mezzo soprano. I would be characterized technically as a mezzo soprano with a very big range. I think I have a lot of color in my voice. It's a thick sound with a lot of color in it, whereas as some people have a thinner sound in their voice. So I can there's a lot of movement in my voice as far as the richness in it and the timbre in it. That would be how I would
see. Those are all the words I would have never have used to describe your voice. That's why
it's a musician. Yeah.
Because going through the specifics, it's like it's just interesting because all the musicians, whether it's an instrument of your voice or another instrument, I try to avoid those because all of a sudden they start getting into the technicalities of the amperage that's going through this, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Yeah, wrong podcast. Wrong podcast.
I know. Well, you have a very deep, robust voice yourself. Definitely cut out for podcasting. That's why you're doing such a great job, I think, because of your voice. When
I've interviewed one person. You should listen. I interviewed the bass singer for the Spinners R&B group, and he's really deep, and it's just how he talks. I'm like, wow. You don't talk to somebody with such a deep voice too often.
No, but I love a deeper sound, like a baritone bass sound in a voice. I really like it a lot. And there's that. It's just a richer, like I said, a richer, fuller sound. I enjoy that. That's my personal preference. So.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, because I've seen some of the clips. I mean, you have a lot of great clips online. Kind of theater, Broadway. I mean, that's how I describe it. But the mezzo soprano.
Yes, as a mezzo, a belter. But I'm classically trained, so I can do. I do sing. I have a pretty big range, so I can sing in my head voice, more classical style. But it's just not where my career path has taken me.
Sure.
The music that I sang with Cirque was all original music. So it's very world pop, if you will. Yeah. I've done a lot of musical theater, and I've trained a lot of musical theater and directed musical theater. So it's just been kind of the direction that my career has taken me. Sure. And it's a different track than classical singing. I understand the differences. So when I work with people, I can help them in either or, knowing what they need to do vocally to get the success that they need in their career. But musical theater and circus is definitely, circus is variety. So it can be a lot of different things. But definitely musical theater is it's a character sound because you're becoming something else, really.
Yeah. No, I get it. That's why I like talking to people. Because that's a great description. I mean, I would never have come up with that, but that's exactly right.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't think about the differences. They think, oh, she's an opera singer, or but if you look at someone, let's look at Lady Gaga, for instance. She can sing so many different varieties of music because she really understands her voice and has a lot of vocal awareness and knows what she's doing with it. So, and I can think of a few other artists that really can just transition into whatever they need to be doing. That is truly understanding your body and your voice and what you are putting out, how you're communicating it into the world.
That's there was a show, I don't remember what channel, but it was a singing show, and it was but it was they talked more about actually helping the singers. And it wasn't, and I hate to say this, it wasn't American Idol where they just go, okay, go sing, because they don't really on American Idol, they don't show the help. They just show the fun stuff.
Right,
There,
right.
were-
The
there
performance.
was a singing show, and they actually talked about going more to your head voice, go more or deeper into this. And I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know you could
Right.
do that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's so many different things, and and I work with speakers too because it's similar. It's similar what we do with our voice. We have different registers in
Yeah.
our voice, and the key though is learning how to use them and how to transition. Transitioning is very difficult, but if you have this really high squeaky voice and you're a speaker, you you might be challenged with not being seen as having authority because deeper voices automatically are known as having more authority. Whether they do or not, it brings more authority to the table than someone with a really, really high pitched voice. This studies have been done on this. So if you have that and you're trying to command authority in a room, you got a lot
Tough.
of things working against you. Yeah, but you're not stuck with that. You can learn how
Yeah.
to change it. That's the beauty. But you have to have a lot of vocal awareness and understanding of how it all works
I
to be able to.
talked to Jesse Peck, the bass singer from the Spinners.
Yeah,
Excuse me. He does voiceover work because he's got that
right.
announcer. Thanks for calling WW. And
Right.
but
That amazing sound.
He said before he got the job with the Spinners, he was doing voiceover work, and he treated it like a job. So he would practice for hours. He would
Yes.
just get different scripts and just speak into it, and then try different tonations and different inflections and different. And welcome to the da 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 da. But it was work. It was real work. It wasn't just he didn't just show up one day and go, "Hi, I can speak like this."
Well, I think that that's a really, really good point. And I think that a lot of people that are interested in performing, whether it be speaking or singing,
Yeah.
think that there's not that much work involved. Like, yeah, I'll practice, but they don't understand.
Yeah,
I tell you what I get. Yeah, I mean, it takes you really digging into the material, digging into it, and sort of being. You hear here in the entrepreneurial world, people say be, do, have, and people are good at doing and having, but
Yeah.
not so good at being. And when you're an artist, when you're a speaker, when you're a singer, you almost have to be what it is you're saying. Think about an actor. You have to become that character which you are trying to portray. You have to be believable.
Yeah.
And the same thing as a singer, you have to be the person that is putting out that emotion so that others can relate in a way that others can relate, not just in a way that you feel,
Yeah.
but in a way that you can connect with other people.
I was going to ask you, a lot of people need to public speak for their jobs, and it might be something that they didn't want to do. And all of a sudden they get promoted to vice president of marketing, and now they have to do presentations. Is that something you work with on the coaching side?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have several clients that I work with. And the truth is, we all need to speak. I particularly work with people who are speakers, but they know they can be better. They know that they can do a better job, really taking it to another level. But if you think about it, look, it's someone that's going to an interview, someone that's trying to get a job. That's a speaking opportunity right there, just sitting in front of someone interviewing with them as a speaker. If you go live on your Facebook page, that's a speaking opportunity right there. You want to take every opportunity that you have in front of you and put your best foot forward.
Sure.
So you can land that job, so you can get those top tier clients, so you can make the sell. I mean, how much money
or just not look stupid.
There's that too.
I mean, I think that's most
good about yourself. Yeah.
I think that's most people. Well, I'm projecting. I think that's a big fear of a lot of people. Is just, I mean, I know
it's the number one fear. It's the number one fear in the world.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Talking to others is a fear.
It is. It's right up there with spiders. Spiders is like, I think, number 2. For me, spiders is number 1. Okay.
It's my wife likes spiders. That she just doesn't, so she won't let me kill them. But she screams when she sees them. So because she's afraid of spiders, And the loudest screams I've heard from her in her life are because of spiders.
Right.
But then she goes, "Don't hurt it,"
Oh.
because she knows what, how they're part of this system, and they kill this and they eat this, and they're and I'm like, oh, so I've got to remove it peacefully as you're screaming.
That's terrible. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
Right?
Listen, you just need to burn the house down. Burn the house down.
I'm like,
I cannot with the spiders.
I look at her and I go, look over there. I'm like, we can solve this problem.
Yes, I'm sorry. And they, since we're talking about spiders, they say you eat like hundreds of spiders in your lifetime. Leaving you with that today. Just so you know.
I was hoping for like a good tip on how to protect your voice, how to get over your fear of public speaking. Now I'm thinking I'm eating spiders today.
Well, I guess watch when you're practicing using your voice that you don't eat a spider.
You should be careful what you wish for, because now that's going to be the title of our episode. Julia Langley says we eat spiders.
It's true. I have a lot of information like that. Anyone else that wants any cool tips on animal life?
Do you find that you get, okay, when you travel and you're in a hotel or whatever, what do you do? I watch documentaries a lot, so I end up getting like weird information, like you eat 100 spiders, right? I mean, that's how, because I'm always like, I don't want to sit there and watch brainless TV, so I'm like, okay, well, I can fill my time. I've got 3 hours in a hotel room in Dallas, I'm like,
right.
I end up watching crazy shows, mysteries of the underground, all that. So, how do you fill up your time, your downtime? Is it just sleeping? I mean,
no, I actually try to get out. I want to see the community that I'm in. I like to meet the people of the area when I'm traveling. I like to meet the people. I like to do what the locals do. I want to go, but I was in Bali right before the pandemic. I'm hoping to go back this next year. Going and watching the sunset. That's what everybody does every day. Going and doing yoga. Going, it's whatever it is for that place. I want to experience it. I want to experience what life is like. And I'm going to Morocco in a few weeks.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about being in the desert. I want to see, experience, the stars in the desert, eating dinner there, going through town at night. I just want to feel it and kind of embody it. I love it. That's why I like to travel, and I like to see the people in the area.
Yeah. For me now, I always try and book extra time, whether it's a half a day or a day. I always try and
just
say,
to do something.
Yeah, just something of the local. And last time I went to Dallas for work, I took an extra half day and I went out and saw where they filmed Dallas, the show.
Oh yeah, South Fork
Ranch.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I posted the pictures on Instagram, and then my friends that live in Dallas like, hey, I've never been out there.
Isn't that amazing?
I'm like, dude, you're 15 minutes away.
Exactly. It really. I know people living in South Florida. I lived 2 miles from the beach, and I'm a beach girl, so like I'm always like running to the beach. But I know people that live there that never go.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm like, this is South Florida. We're about palm trees and beaches and the water, the blue water, and so whatever. I mean, I that's just not who I am. If that's okay, but I just want to I want to experience it.
I'm with you. Like. I always joke with people, why live in Southern California if you don't go to the beach or the mountains? Or, I mean, we pay a lot of extra money to live here in taxes. So I want to see the beach if that's why I'm here. Like,
that's right. Like, enjoy. And there's so much. I love the natural resources of an area too. It's not even about going out, go to Dubai and you could spend a lot of money, but I want to experience it. And it's not always one of the best things. I was in Italy one time, and one of the best things that I did. I was with a couple of friends of mine. We were actually, I'll tell you about the one when we were in Naples. We were trying to find a restaurant. So we wound up asking about 5 locals, different people, and even a police officer, where's the best place to eat?
Sure.
And they all said the same restaurant. Well, that's what was amazing. They sent us all to the
That's
same
pretty
place right
amazing.
across from the Opera House. And I wound up going in this restaurant, and they had a maitre d', and then they had a guitarist who did not speak any English. He only spoke Italian. Well, I wound up singing with him. They were in this restaurant,
Of course you
and
did.
yeah, and it was frequented by paparazzi and like presidents from all over the world. I had no idea.
It
It
was
was
the
a
place.
hole in the wall, but it was the place. And so yeah, I sang Elvis, and I would sing the English and he would sing the Italian.
Oh,
And
sweet.
we did Frank Sinatra, and like we did all kind it was so fun. It was so fun. But you don't get to those are the experiences that
Yeah.
I like, and you don't get that if you don't take a step out. So you got to be willing to step a little bit out of your comfort zone and to go into some of these places that you would never go see.
See, I totally agree, and that's the stuff you remember, right? I mean, we've all had delayed flights, we've all had lost luggage, we've all had bad layovers. I showed up. My flight was so late that they ran out of cars, so the last car they had was a stick shift with manual windows. I was in Mexico. I'm like, well, I'll take it, because my flight was 6 hours late.
Right.
I rented out my car because I thought I wasn't coming. But you remember the good stories, right? I mean, that's why
That's
you got to
right.
create the memories and get rid of the bad stuff.
Well, you even I've even got a few bad stories too myself, but
Oh,
those are great stories too.
they can be. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you
Yeah.
learn and try not to repeat some of them if you can help them. But some of them are out of your, they're out of your control. The ones that are
Absolutely.
completely out of your control, you learn that that's what can happen when you're traveling, and it is what it is, and that you still try to enjoy where you are and the moment, and
Yeah.
then write it down for
Well, I
later.
mean, I had a 23-day work shift in Columbus, Ohio, and I got one day off in 23 days, and some of the days during the week it was slow, but the day off, my uncle drove down, and we went to an Ohio State football game, and that's the memory I have of that. So I had 22 bad days pretty much of just a lot of work, and then but I still remember it's a good trip because I got to spend time with the family.
That's exactly
So,
right. Sometimes it's just that one.
yeah.
I spent 2 weeks in Hawaii one time. Of course, there's no bad day, I guess, when you're in Hawaii.
There
But
is. I have one for you, but go ahead.
oh, okay, all right. I didn't have a bad day when I was in Hawaii, but there was one day that I was there performing, and so we rented, and all they had was a tiny car left, like what you're talking about, and there were
Yeah.
6 of it. And we jammed into this car, right? And I can remember us driving. We just took off. So we were all dressed with swimsuits and then something over the top of it. And we didn't know where we were going or what we were going to be doing. So we're just driving along, and we see a fruit stand. And we're like, let's stop and we'll get some coconut water or whatever. And so we got out, we got some fruit, some coconut water. And there was this tiny sign nailed to a tree, wood, and I guess it's a waterfall, and it was literally like that big.
Yeah.
What, you could barely see it. And one of the guys with us was like, is that waterfall? And the guy's like, oh yeah, it's that way. I mean, that's
like,
literally
it's no big deal.
all we got. Yeah. And we're like, well, how do you get to it? And he's like, well, you go that way.
Yeah.
Literally, right? So we took off. Well, we wound up literally creek crawled under. We went through the jungle. We had to walk across this like tree, and it waterfall that way. And so we could whole adventure. I felt like it was an Indiana Jones, movie or whatever. And we rounded the corner, and it opened up into this cliff, this giant waterfall, and there was like a swing that swung out into the middle, dropped off into this huge pool of water, rocks, swimming,
everything.
I mean, we were like this tiny sign that said waterfall, and we just decided to follow it.
Yeah. But
you know?
that's exactly right. That's
And
that's the
so
fun
it's
part.
amazing. It was amazing, really. And we still talk about it to this day,
Yeah.
about that swimming hole
Yeah.
in the jungle in Hawaii.
Off this little
It's
sign.
great.
Were you on
That's
Oahu, or
exactly.
do you know what island you're on?
Well, we were on both. Let me think. We were on Maui when
Okay.
we saw that. We were on, yeah, we were on Maui.
That's my
So,
favorite. 'Cause that's my territory for work. So
oh, it's tough.
yeah. So
Tough being you there.
I went to Kauai as part of with my wife for part of our fun day. So I have an account there, but it's really small. Anyways, the day we got there, it rained 26 inches of rain in 24 hours. So
Okay.
we got over 2 feet of rain in less than one day. So everything was closed. The roads, they were helicoptering people off their homes because they were flooded out.
Oh my
We
gosh.
couldn't get above Lahui. We were on the south side. We couldn't get to the north side. So I never saw Princeville or any of that because all the roads were closed and washed out. We couldn't go to the other side of the island because the waterfalls were all closed because there was water just floating across. So
Oh
we
my.
stayed in our hotel room for 3 days. So
Okay, that's a that's just a sad
it's a
story. I don't
good
know.
story though.
It's a really good story. I'm glad you're okay. That
Yeah,
could
yeah.
have gone that could
See,
have gone the other way, but at least you're safe.
yeah,
But
yeah. Yeah.
there's
But
just,
we spent all that money, and all of a sudden we're like, okay, hey, great, we don't
and
get
you're
to see
just
that.
stuck there.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
we
that would
went
not
back. We had
that
a good time last time we went back, so it's all
well, if
good.
you're on the West Coast, how far is that flight? It's about 4 hours, right? Four
No,
hours
it's
to
more. It's almost 5.5,
is
just
it
over
really?
5.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good flight.
So that's about like me coming to you.
Yeah,
It'd be like you going to Hawaii.
that's it's a. I have a potential future guest who travels a lot. She lives in Hawaii, but she travels to the East Coast. And I can't wait to talk to her about how do you stay sharp on a 6-hour time difference.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, because she's going, if it's 3 in the morning, that's 9 in the morning on the East Coast. Like, how do you stay sharp? If you got a meeting at 9 a.m., it's actually 3 a.m. to your body.
Well, that's what I was talking about earlier, going and
Yeah.
performing and the things that we do with cirque, they're dangerous
Yeah, I know.
and they're dangerous. So it's imperative that we do get rest. And it's funny, there's a funny story about that because a lot of times we just sleep wherever we
Yeah.
can. When you're traveling like that, and you'll you'll see there'll be people just laid out everywhere. Well, I was on I did a corporate show one time, and I don't even remember the city actually, but I remember how tired I was, and so we had about 2 hours in the middle of the day, and so everybody's asleep. Well, I was trying to find somewhere quiet, so I went right outside the backstage, and there was a stairwell, and I just made myself a little pallet
There you
pillow,
go.
and I went to sleep, right? Well, I woke up with two police officers standing over me. They thought I was homeless.
Yeah. You're like,
And they thought,
no.
I'm with the show, I swear. And they didn't believe me. So I had to do some fast talking. I'm like, promise, I'll take you backstage. They finally let me go, but they literally thought that I was sleeping under the stairwell because I was homeless. And I'm like, I'm just a performer.
Yeah, yeah.
I promise. I'm not really
It's called
homeless, but
napping.
it's napping, seriously. And so that's really key because when everything that you're doing, could go terribly wrong, and it
Yeah.
could in circus because there's nothing rigged in there. These are just extreme athletes
Yeah.
and people performing. They're using their body at a top tier level. Then there's some mental grit that
Yeah.
goes into it, as well as just resting when you can and doing what you can.
I was not to that extreme because obviously what I do, I just need to talk to people. But my wife always tells me there was a time when I was in Vegas for work at the rodeo, and I got sick, like passed out. I'm flush. I've got the flu, whatever. I had to drive from Vegas down to Phoenix to open up a store. And I was starting to feel better, but I was still just tired. And and she's like, well, what are you going to do? You're not going to go. And I go, well, of course I'm going to go. Like, it's how it's how I eat, it's how I pay my bills. So as a performer,
Still on.
yeah. So I'm driving, I'm not feeling good. And all of a sudden I go to the hotel, I sleep, I wake up the next day. Hey, how are you? Because you have to put, and then I'd go back that night and,
I know it doesn't, you can't stop. Like I said, there's a mental strength there that you just have to turn the switch on and plow through it. I mean, I've got a great story about a dear friend of mine who, when I was in Japan, I was with him, and I had my dressing room. I was getting ready in my dressing room, and I hear we're at 5 minutes to showtime. So I'm just putting the finishing touches, and I hear a knock on my door, right? Can I use your restroom, Julia? And I'm like, and so it's my friend, Billy. And I'm like, of course, come in. Because I had a private area. And so you hear him go into the restroom, he shuts the door, and the next thing I hear is someone like violently throwing up.
Oh.
Violently. And I'm like,
That's not good.
First so let me say this, that he started the show.
Oh.
So he actually was the first person out on stage, and he was an acrobat. So he's flipping, jumping, turning, and here he is in my bathroom. Yeah, it's sick. So we ate something. I don't know. He ate, and which is easy also to happen when you're traveling, especially if you're eating street food and a foreign country. We're not used to it, and sometimes you don't even know what it is. But
very true.
He's in there. So I open my door and I stick my head out, and I'm like,
Billy's gonna be a minute.
Billy's sick. Can I get a Sprite in here? And they're like, panic ensues, right? So I was trying not to set the alarms off, but it was really bad. Woo! So everybody's like, sick, Billy's sick, everything. So they get me ice, that's right. So I give it to him, whatever. Places come, out he goes. He goes right out. Right, flip, walks off stage. In the bathroom, throws up. Walks right back out on stage. He does this for the entire show.
Yeah.
And then walks off stage and just collapses.
Yeah.
But no one in that audience would have ever guessed that he was, it's about the sickest I've ever seen anybody be on the spot, but you just turn that switch and you just keep going. You got a job to do, and you do it, and that's the
as a singer, how conscious were you of, like, speaking, and if you feel a little tightness in your chords, and do you stop talking to people, and how does that work?
Well, I don't.
You're a yapper, so
I thank you. Ooh.
Yes. Very much so.
Well, there are different schools of thought on this, because vocals can be, talking can be more difficult on your voice than singing. But here's my thought on it, and I've been doing both for a number of years. If you're using correct technique when you speak and when you sing, then the only time I would institute a no speaking policy to prepare for a show is if I literally had laryngitis, like if I literally had no voice. If I'm just scratchy throat or post nasally or something, no, because I know my technique, and talking's not all it's gonna do is warm me up. It's getting those muscles to working. That's exactly right. So I don't really subscribe to that unless you actually have vocal strain going on, and then that's a whole different story if you or have voice strain. Then you need rest, lots of rest. Yeah, but that's not usually the problem. It's usually,
but it's all about proper technique then.
It is. It is. And I've seen it so many times that singers and speakers too, they rehearse. So you'll go into a tech week before a show and they'll be rehearsing every day. You'll be working 14-hour days, not sleeping, not great. Yeah. And in a weird place, sleeping. Opening night, show night, no voice.
Because you burned it out.
Because they're doing it wrong. Because they're not using technique. I mean, and if you don't use proper technique, you can hurt yourself. You can get vocal strain then, and then that's when you got to shut it all down. Yeah, you got to shut it all down.
How hard is it to learn proper technique?
Anyone can learn it.
Sure.
With the proper teacher. It takes time, and especially if you have instituted certain habits. So you have to pull those habits back and put some new habits in place. But if someone is truly, truly dedicated to learning technique, and let's say they have a goal in mind, I could probably help them in 6 months, change those habits. Yeah. I mean, I recommend for young speakers and young singers that they give themselves a year before they really start trying to push it. I mean, it takes time to grow, but for someone who's been speaking, I can make some pretty transformational changes with them within 6 months ish, right around that mark. Yeah. That's
pretty amazing.
Yeah. It's if they're dedicated, if they're willing to do the work. But it's really funny because sometimes, it's so funny because sometimes people think, well, when I talk about breathing, for instance, breathing is the foundation of speaking and singing, but most people think they know how to breathe. We all do it every day. So when you start teaching the proper way to use your breath, all of a sudden they realize they're not breathing before they make a noise. They're not breathing before they speak. Yeah. So
it's interesting because I had never heard my own voice until I started this show. I had never heard. I still don't like hearing my voice playback, but
no one does.
Until you start doing it, I never realized how many pauses and uhs and stutters I did until I heard my own voice. So I think
you're absolutely right.
It's interesting. So now you say that, I'm like, yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah, and it goes back to that vocal awareness that we were talking about earlier, having a real pure view, a true view of yourself vocally. And like you said, a lot of times you have to listen to yourself to know. So my clients, I really talk to them about recording themselves, about doing things in the mirror, really looking at themselves.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they start discovering it's really hard to do, though. It's very, very hard to face yourself, to listen to yourself.
I had a good friend. He was my 5th or 6th guest on my show. And he calls me up as soon as he hears the episode gets released. And he goes, dude, I sound so weird. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, no, you sound like you, but I sound weird. I go, that's exactly how I feel when I listen to you. I go, I sound weird and you sound normal.
That's exactly right.
It's a bizarre thing for people that haven't performed or recorded themselves.
It is true. And I think that's an actual real thing too. There is a reason why when we're hearing our voice back, there's a distortion that actually goes on in our own brain. It's something that happens in our brain. I'm not going to get all technical, but nearly everybody is the same way. Most people don't like their voice until they start getting used to it and used to the way it sounds on a recording. It's going to be different, but there's still things we can do to make it better, to make our speeches better, our communication better, answer questions better, slow things down. I could go on and on, list a lot.
Well, and that's we'll say that for people that want to get better to contact you.
That's exactly right.
That's
I
right.
can help them. I can help them.
Well, like I said, there are people that, and I've talked to a couple of them that don't like public speaking, but they have to because of their job. It's just something they feel they have to do.
That's
And
exactly right.
I think whenever you tell yourself that you have to do something instead of like this is something I want to do, it makes it worse. I mean,
Well, it does for sure. And I just it's not some people's thing, if you will, but the truth of the matter is your voice is your superpower. It is your superpower. It is what connects you to other people. It
yeah,
is what exposes you to the world. It's what brings people in. It's what makes you relatable to other people. It's what tells your story. It's how other people get to know you. You don't use your voice. You're the first of all the world's best kept secret. Nobody wants to be the world's best kept secret.
it's so
Okay,
true. Yeah,
let's be honest.
absolutely.
But how can anyone know you if you hide yourself away? If you don't communicate properly, you don't use your voice, you don't speak out, you don't give interviews. If you write a book, let's say that for instance, someone who wrote a book, maybe they're introverted. That's why they like to write. They love to write, but they don't like to speak. How are you going to sell that book?
Yeah, you got to go out and do the press for the book release.
Let's say you're an entertainer and you're a band. You run a band. You've got the greatest music. You're one of the best songwriters that's ever hit the airwaves, but you won't get out and tell anybody about it.
Yeah,
Who's going to know about your music?
that's what
No
PR
one.
people are for.
Yeah, but at some point, they're going people like you are going to want to interview them. So, so they need to be able to talk.
I just had lunch with the president of a PR firm on Friday last week, and that we were talking about that exact same thing because he deals with companies. He doesn't PR individuals. He PRs companies, and he has that issue. Like he's like, okay, you're opening up this new brand or you got this new product. You need to go out and tell people about it. He deals with the exact same thing.
It's really true.
That's
And
who you
it
should go
doesn't
after,
matter.
Julia.
Okay.
You should go after your coaching should go after PR companies
That's a great thank you for the tip because
and
they
say, hey,
need
if
their
you have a
clients
client
need
that
help.
doesn't like talking, I can help you with them because that happens. I mean,
Thank you very much. Thank
yeah,
you for that because and it happens more often than you realize because
absolutely.
I've come across people who I actually think are very good speakers and are so tormented, really are
Yeah,
tormented when they speak. They know they have to do it, like you say, but every time it's just and I've had people I've literally had to pull them out of the bathroom by their hair. They don't want to, but have slowly transformed that fear. And this is really what I deal with when when I first started coaching people. This is the main thing that I noticed is that it was almost a little bit of therapy going on there because
yeah,
they didn't want there was a fear of failing and a fear of judgment of their peers looking at them and thinking whatever they were saying was stupid or not being bright or smart. And it was really amazing how many people were like that. And I would say an overwhelming
yeah.
majority
I
of
totally
people
agree.
have some
Totally
kind of
agree.
fear. So yes, so it's really my specialty is helping people overcome that nervousness and that fear, or at least learn how to have a relationship with it. So
Yeah,
you can, because fear is not always a bad thing. Fear is there to protect us, but it's letting the fear control us
yeah.
is
Well, a lot of them
is
don't speak. Like for me, I speak a couple times a week for my
right.
job and then for this. So I'm relatively used to it now. But a lot of the CEOs or CFO, especially like the CFOs, the chief financial officers, they're not public speakers typically.
Right.
And
They're
but
numbers guys.
but they have to speak, and a lot of them have to do phone calls to their investors and that type of thing. So learning to relax and not just talking numbers and slow down, because they get
That's right.
they get lost into their data. And you're like, and it doesn't the overages and this and that and that. You're like, slow down, just relax.
That's right. And relate. There's
Yeah.
there's a real tip for you right there. That's
Sure.
probably the best thing I could say as far as value today is relating to the people that you're talking to. You can stand up there and feel something all day long, but if you're not really reaching your client or your the person you're interviewing with or the people in the audience that you're giving a keynote to, if they're not feeling what you're feeling or they're not
It's
understanding,
gonna be a long day. Yeah.
and how much money are you leaving on the table because of that? So people don't think about that too.
Yeah.
You know, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a coach and you're out there, you have a room full of 100 people, and let's say 10 of those people would be potential clients of yours. And so let's do some numbers here.
What's a client worth? Yeah.
Yeah, if a client's $10,000, let's say that client would be just 10. Okay. That's 10. That you have $100,000 problem on your hands right there. So you give a lackluster keynote and nobody cares about your services. But then let's say you do it 10 times. You got $1 million problem on your hands. That's right. So when you actually quantify it and you put numbers to what this problem is causing you, then
it becomes worth it.
It does.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is our connection to the world. Helen Keller one time said, and Helen Keller is from Alabama, the state that I was born in, actually. And she was deaf, she was blind. I don't know if you're familiar with her story.
Yeah.
But someone asked her one time which one of her disabilities was worse, that she felt like was more difficult to deal with. And she always said it was harder being deaf because she felt like it cut her off from other people. So because she was not able to hear them and they weren't as easily able to relate to each other. I mean, she found ways around her disabilities, but just to say that, I mean, that she was so smart and so profound in the things that she said, but it was really about the communication with other people that she always longed for and wanted. And that tells you right there.
It's kind of interesting that the mask that we wore for 2 years, well, at least where I live in California, that really it ruins your levels of communication with people.
It really does. Well, it's a barrier.
Yeah.
It's a barrier. It's meant to be a barrier, but it still is. So it was a barrier on purpose, but it was a barrier between people too. It's just like when someone stands there with their arms crossed right here. You think that's an innocent gesture, but it's a barrier. It's a protection barrier.
Yeah.
And it impedes the energy that's exchanged between the connectors. Right?
I had a football coach when I was 14. You are not allowed to stand with your arms crossed at practice. You would do a lap if he saw you with your arms crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it does, because you're not open. If your arms are crossed, you're not open. And it's true, though. It literally is a physical barrier. And these are all things when you are meeting in an office situation, you're interviewing. Yeah. You got a desk between you and somebody else. You have a barrier between you. You want to break down those walls, break down those barriers.
By the way, Julia, we all knew you were from Alabama.
Oh, you did?
You got everyone knows. You've gotten really good at.
Are you saying I have a Southern accent?
I'm saying you have a bit of a Bama drawl. That's all I'm saying.
Well, yeah, okay.
I don't know if you're from LA, but
Lower Alabama.
Lower Alabama.
I'm from ECA, East Central.
I work at the rodeo, and they're like, it might have been the Columbus, Ohio. And they said, where do you live? I said, I live in LA, Los Angeles. And they went, what part of Lower Alabama are you from? And I was like, no.
I was wondering how you knew what that was, because I've never heard anyone outside of Alabama say LA and call it Lower Alabama.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
It's a real thing.
No, I grew up even across the Alabama line, but about an hour and a half outside of Atlanta, Georgia. And then, of course, lived in South Florida, Palm Beach County, near Boca Raton for 20 years. But
It
my
doesn't
accent
matter.
is here to stay.
I have a friend that she's from Boston, the Boston area, and she
Oh,
hasn't lived
yeah.
there in 40 years, and she still has the quota.
That's it.
Yeah,
Parks to car.
large. Because I sell it's small, medium, large, extra large.
Large.
I'm like, I go, no, we don't do that here. She goes,
I have a friend from Long Island that she can't say her. I tease her that she's a drawer. Put in
yeah,
a drawer.
same thing.
It's the same thing. It's cute though. But yes, this is it's pretty syrupy. And if I spend any time
It's
at my
real quick.
mom's, it just like that.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's where I am right now.
Therefore, there it is.
Therefore, there it is. Yes.
So, what's your book about? What was the authoring a book, and what was that kind of experience like for you? I'm really
Well, it
curious.
was very interesting. This was actually a collaborative book that I was part of, and it's a business book called To Speak, Lead, and Impact. And
Nice.
we were a 12-time #1 bestseller. And one of those categories was public speaking, which of course is
That
my
helps.
area of
Yeah.
expertise. Yeah. So it's really good. But really I talk about I had a horrific accident back in 2019, and I talk a little bit about I tell that story in the book and about the overcoming the challenges that I faced, and really how you can use something like that to step into a new version of yourself
Yeah.
to be better and stronger, and not let it
Define you.
get you.
Yeah. No.
That's exactly right. It would just turn the tragedy into a triumph, or trial into triumph, if you will. And that's really what the book is about. The chapters in the book is a lot like that. They talk about different things people have faced and how they've really stepped into their calling of entrepreneurship, of leadership, and and beyond, where it's taken them from there. So
That's cool.
so that's my chapter. Yeah. And it was I was so honored that we received the best-selling status. And
Yeah.
it was just released in September. So I have the Amazon page up if anyone is interested, is listening.
What's the name of the book?
Called To Speak, Lead, and Impact.
Okay. I'll make sure I'll have that I'll put the link on my website, so
Okay.
the listeners can just go right there and click buy a book and all that.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's a good
it's
deal,
wonderful.
though.
Lots of inspirational stories, my story, I'm inspired every single day. And coming out of that, I went through a period of couple of years that were, I thought, when is it going to end?
Yeah.
Why me? I went through all the questions. Why me? When's it going to end? Why is this happening? But once I really got my physical health better after I was hit by a car, or a Jeep, while I was riding my bicycle. I was crossing an intersection in South Florida, and they ran through the intersection and T-boned me. And I went basically out into a 4-lane highway, and but suffered multiple broken bones and a spinal cord injury and head injury.
Yeah.
So it was a very challenging time for me, and health-wise. Then we went into the pandemic.
Yeah.
And then my father passed away. And then my mom's house was hit by a tornado and destroyed right after that. So you talk about one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, But as
here
you
you
can
are.
see, here I am. And I decided, what? One day I might be taken from this earth, but it's not going to happen today.
Well,
and as long as I'm here.
And because of the book, I can tell you, I mean, and I tell a lot of people ask me why I do my show, and it's for stories like that, right? Because I'm going to record this story, it's going to be out in the ethos, it's going to be around the world, and if one person hears it that's going through some crappy times in their life, then it's worth it,
I agree with you. And I will feel it's just one person, if I could touch one person with that story, because it really, that which does not kill you makes you stronger. It's just so true, because I did come out of the other side almost reborn, like a new version of me, and even more determined than ever to take every single second, minute of my day and my life and turn it into something just amazing, to help others, to inspire other people, to use my voice to communicate, to coach others so that they can put their own voice out into the world, impart change upon lives.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's big time.
That's right.
And that's why you got put in that situation.
It is. Did I want it to happen? No. Would I want to go back and do it again? Absolutely not. But it did, and that was part of my journey.
I interviewed 2019 was bad for accents, I guess. I interviewed a girl who was is an exotic dancer, and she taught pole dancing lessons and all that around the country.
Okay.
In 2019, she was riding her moped here in the valley, got hit by a car, and amputated her leg from the knee down. Okay. And she's only ever danced. That's like her whole career, her whole life was dancing. So now she's amputated from the knee down from something that wasn't her fault. And then she goes into the pandemic. So guess what? All the strip clubs were closed here. So now she's rehabbing. She can't walk. She's trying different prosthetics and all that. And her form of income is gone.
That's right.
All at the same time. All within a few months.
That's exactly. I mean, it's almost the same. It's a very similar story. Because I went right out of convalescence. I've had 4 surgeries from that accident. I went right out of that into
the pandemic. And you still have the accent. They couldn't get rid of the accent. After all those surgeries, you still got the accent.
Oh, you're a funny guy. This accent's not going anywhere.
It ain't going nowhere. No matter how many operations.
It ain't going anywhere. No, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's encouraging though. It's inspiring to hear that. I mean,
it is.
If someone meets you now and they don't know you, they're not going to know it.
No, I hope not, because I don't want to live in that place.
Yeah.
I talk about it because people want to know what propels me, like what lights that fire under me. I was given a chance to live another day. I about a month after my accident, a friend of mine had an accident with her 12-year-old daughter, and she walked away, and her 12-year-old daughter is paralyzed from the waist down. I look at that.
Yeah.
I talk about that because I'm like, I was spared. That could have been me.
Yeah.
I was spared from death, and I was spared from paralysis. And as hard as the recovery was, it was not easy. But I am here. So what am I going to do with it?
Yeah.
I'm going to travel. I'm going to travel as far and wide as I can. I'm going to help people. I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to inspire, do good work.
So how much traveling are you planning on doing for 2023? Because I mean, we're getting to the end, right? I mean,
right. Well, I think I mentioned I am headed back I'll be in South Florida coming up here in a few weeks. Then I'm headed to Morocco. I'm going to Morocco to speak. And I'm excited about that trip. January, I'm planning on going to Bali, and I should be there for 2 or 3 weeks in Bali. I have some speaking engagements in London in April. Yeah, speaking engagements. And I'm actually doing some workshops. So if anyone here's is interested in coming to some workshops, I'll be putting out some information on that as it starts to come together. But that will be in April of this next year, and that's as far as I've gotten thus far.
But I mean,
I'm still planning.
You have the potentiality with the speaking engagements to literally travel the world. So I mean, if there are people out there that are listening and want to travel more, it's the possibilities there.
the possibility is there. And if you have questions, I mean, I can certainly answer questions and I can help you and show
Yeah.
you how to do it too. The possibilities are there. It's endless. It's just a matter of, do you want to put in the work? Do you want to dream? Do you really want to step out? First, you have to dream it, but then you have to take the step. So, and it's scary. It's
Heck
not
yeah.
easy.
Well,
It's not easy, but how much do you want it? You know, how much?
I have my day job. I'm a 100% commission salesperson. So if I don't sell anything, I don't make any money. Just it's
There you
that
go.
simple. And a lot of people that work in the offices are they're like, oh my God, you guys make so much money, blah, blah, blah. And the president of the company goes, if you want that job, they're like, no, 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 no. They like their steady income.
That's right.
You know,
but the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward.
It tends to work that way, right? But a lot of people don't want to take that risk. I mean,
that's right.
They just don't.
Fear.
Yeah.
It's fear again that holds you back from taking those steps. But I can tell you, I'd rather take that step out and it not go exactly as I wanted it to, than go down the road and look back and say, why didn't I try it? I don't want to live in with regret. And I don't recommend that for anybody. So you have to face those fears. You have to step out. And if there's some way you need to, I call it flowing like water, flowing around any obstacles that get in your way. You can flow, and you just flow into the next phase and expand and grow. So, so what, it didn't turn out exactly the way you envisioned it. And that's okay too. Something usually better comes around. So take the chance.
Well, and there's a lot of Joe Walsh, the guitarist for the Eagles. Now he's in his later life. He was interviewed and they said, how did you come up with this magical life of everything working out? I mean, you've got these Grammys, you got this. And he goes, it wasn't that way when I was going through it.
No.
He's like, it's real easy to look back and go, like a lot of people look at my show and they're like, oh my God, you're so lucky, Pete. You get to interview all these great people and this. And I'm like, well, you could do it too, but you wouldn't put in the work.
That's what it boils down to.
4.5 years later of doing it every week, yeah, I'm lucky now. It's like, no. But am I really? It's like when people see the public speakers you coach, they're like, oh my gosh, you're so lucky you can speak, and they're like, yeah, 6 months of work.
Yeah, or more. Most of them is more. But that's, and it's not just work, it's also failing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, it's also not being afraid to fail. You stepping out there and taking chances. That's part of it too. So what happens is, though, no one sees that getting told no over and over and over again. They don't see those letters of, hey, that's okay, we filled that spot, they don't need you, or the disappointment that comes. All you see are the wins on social media or whatever.
That's right.
But so, lucky, blessed, whatever you want to call it. But that's because you were willing to take the chance, willing to do it, and you're willing to fail. Greater the risk, the greater the reward. Again. So for anybody out there that's listening, you got to be willing to put in the work.
Exactly. I mean, you have to put in the 10,000 hours, as they say.
There's no other way around it.
Yeah.
There's just no other. And here's the other thing too, is that every time you do it, you get better at it. And people ask me, oh, what's the best thing for performing? Perform. No, seriously. What? No, seriously. Perform.
Yeah.
Do it. Make the mistakes. Learn. Keep going. Because where you start and where you end up are going to be two completely different places. But if you're never a beginner and you don't ever start, you're never going to get to the master position.
Let me ask you this question, and I'm old. Why is it that it seems like older people of my generation don't want to do new things as much as, like, when you're young, you're like, yeah, I'll try it. But now when you get, I'm 55. So
That's not old, by the way.
Well, I'm going to be a grandpa in a few months. So yeah, it is.
Well, congratulations, but I think old is a state of mind.
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, I mean, I joke because I mean, we're roller skating, we're doing a whole bunch of things, dancing and going out, but it's state of mind, right?
It is.
But it seems like a lot of my friends that are my contemporaries are like, yeah, you got lucky with that, this and that. I'm like, I didn't know anything. I'd never heard my own voice before. So why do you think older people have an issue with trying something new? And do you see that with your coaching?
I do. Well, first of all, I think that there are a number of things that go into this. Number one is that, first of all, older people have been conditioned their life and they've got a certain way of doing things. So when you have to break those habits and learn new things, they don't want to do that, first of all. There's issues with that. Sometimes it's harder to work with someone because they have to understand this is how you've been doing it, but it's really not been right. Yeah. So they don't want to hear that, first of all. So you've got to be willing to take your ego and put it aside, and be a beginner and learn. Not that you are a beginner, but learn with that beginner's mindset of wonder, which a young kid has, because they don't know they don't know. They just like, okay, whatever. Yeah, let's do it. Let's try. What I got to do. Yeah. Well, where do I go? All right. So that's a little bit different. So that's the first thing. The other thing that I think that happens is as you age, there's a certain wisdom that comes with experience, I think. But I do think that can hold us back because you do see the pitfalls. So when you're younger, you don't care what the pitfalls are. That's why we do dumb things when we're teenagers and in our 20s.
Totally agree.
Because we first of all, don't know any better. And second of all, don't care if we did know better, right? Yeah. We're just audacious, whatever. You lose a little bit of that as you age because some of these things could hurt you or not the nicest thing in the world to do, whatever. So you just are a little bit more conformed, I think. So, but if you can step out of that and maintain a little bit of your childlike wonder, that mindset of being open to new things, open to seeing the world through different eyes, just a little bit. I think that I really think that the world starts to come alive with color, and we can see it differently. I mean, it's like waking up every morning and going, thank you so much for this. I don't know, oatmeal, instead of saying, this is the driest oatmeal I've ever eaten in my life. That's just one example. It's just, so anyway.
No, I totally agree with that.
Two things right there. I think that those are the two biggest things.
Well, it would seem like, because I'm curious, and I don't know how much, like when you deal with a speaker that thinks they know everything already, the older guys versus the young guys that are young people.
Absolutely.
The older people are like, yeah, I know how to do this. I've been doing this for 40 years. And you're like, yeah, but you've never spoken in front of 1,000 people with an amplified microphone.
That's exactly right. Or, you've said, okay, let's try this, and this. And then they do it this way. And then in the training, you say, okay, let's flip it around. Well, why do you want to flip it around?
Yeah.
Well, because it doesn't have to be. Yeah. Because you have a different audience. You have different people you're talking to. So so I find myself doing a lot of that with older clients, but it's okay as long as they're willing to learn and willing to change some of the things that they're doing.
Yeah. I feel like I got to keep trying new things. So whether it's, doing the podcast, which is totally out of my comfort zone, or roller skating and trying to, just to keep the mind fresh and realize, stay open.
Yeah. You just said it right there. We said it. It's staying open and open to receiving.
Yeah.
Different things and getting out of being set in your ways. I think we become so comfortable as we get older. We have our routines, things that have to get done. For once, instead of What's that?
we're bringing my mother-in-law out for Christmas. She hasn't been out here in 7 years,
Okay.
and we literally had to take all of her excuses away.
That's
So
it.
we're driving to pick her up, and then driving home. She lives in Las Vegas, so it's
4
4 hours.
hours, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're
Wow.
we're bringing the RV that way because she's like, well, I can't go in the I might have to go to the bathroom a lot. But we got a
We
bathroom
got
with
you
you.
covered.
She goes, well, what about my dog? Bring the dog with you. So we're literally going and bringing her. We just took all the excuses away. So now she's like, okay, I guess I'm coming.
She didn't have anything left. She didn't know what
Yeah,
else to
yeah,
say.
yeah. If
But
we have to forward your mail for a week, we'll do that. Whatever.
that just goes to show you it can be done if you want something bad enough.
Yeah, yeah.
If you want something bad enough,
That's
but
what
you
I
have to
told.
want it.
But I told my wife, I go, I don't want to be that way. I don't. I mean, I don't want to be. I want to experience new things when I'm in my 80s. So I don't know.
Right. I think that's what keeps us young. I think that keeps us. That's what I mean when I say old.
Yeah,
Whatever.
yeah. I totally
Yeah.
agree. So what's the best way for my listeners to see what you have going on?
Well, I do have I'm on social media.
Yeah.
I am active on Facebook under my name, Julia Langley. I'm on Instagram as Cirque Singer Jules, and of course LinkedIn under my name, Julia Langley. I also, and I can send you, I would love to chat with people. All right. I love to chat with people. So if anyone
Like I
does
said,
want to
you're a
talk,
yapper, so that's
I'm
not
a yapper.
offensive.
I'm a speaker. I'm a singer and a speaker.
Same thing.
But I would love to talk to you. So, and I'm open. I would love to chat with you about what you got going on. And I can send my Calendly link, or actually I have a link tree link that
Yeah,
I can give you. And if you
I'll
can
put it
use
out. Yeah.
that, okay, that would be great. I'll get that up, and that has a lot of the stuff I have going on. I have a masterclass coming up. I'll go ahead and tell you, I'm going to do a masterclass on fear, nervousness,
Oh wow.
talking about that, coming up on December 6th. So people,
Okay.
and it's free. It is free. So people can join in and find out some great tips on how to stand up and public speak and perform with confidence without that fear
I
getting in
won't.
their
I won't
way.
be able to go. I'll be at the rodeo, but
Ah,
December 1st
well,
through December 10th, I work every day. Yeah.
oh my goodness.
Yeah. I'm actually.
Okay.
I go out on the November 27th through December 12th, 16 days.
And you just work every day.
Every day. Yep. There's no days off.
Where will the rodeo be?
It's it's always in Las Vegas. It's the world.
Okay.
It's the national finals NFR. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Always in Vegas.
It sounds great, but
Oh.
16 days in Vegas in your 50s is not what it should be. It gets
Well, Vegas,
and I've done it for a decade, so
about 3 days. About 3 days in Vegas.
3 down. 3 sounds great.
And then you got to go sleep at some point,
Yeah, the young ones don't.
No, I know, right?
They come in,
Well,
I go, because I run the booth at the Mandalay Bay, and I go, look, you got to meet at the shuttle bus at 9 a.m. I don't care what you do from 6 p.m. to 9 a.m. I don't care. But at
Take
9
your
a.m.,
time.
you better be there.
It's your call time. That's what we call call time.
Yeah. We have sent people home.
Really?
Yeah. You miss a couple of days. There's no. So
Well, you have to be that way. Well, it's like a show. It's just like a show. You have call time. You got to be there. You got to show up.
I get the text at 8:30. Hey, I just got back to the room. I'm changing real quick. I'll be right down. I'm like, oh my god.
Oh my god. I hope you can function.
Woo.
But you know what? I've seen circus performers. You see this this behind me right here, the sear wheel right here. People spinning upside down and doing the same thing. It's literally they wheel up in a cab and they get on the bus to go to the airport like the next morning, and we're like, well, you just made it.
You made it, but barely.
Hope you can do a backflip off of
Oh,
4 feet up in the air.
I know she won't listen to this show. We had a girl, and I won't say her name, but she partied really hard for 15 days. and she missed her flight because the night that. So we got done with all the rodeo and all that, and she finally took a night off and went to sleep, and she didn't wake up, so she missed her flight. So where she lives, there's only like 2 flights a day, so she had to wait till the nighttime to get her flight.
No.
Yeah,
That's what
it
happens.
caught up to her right before it needed to.
This is what happened. You asked me what's the difference. It's that, old people go to bed at 9.
Yeah.
There's another difference.
Well, I always, especially now, I take every other night off, because like we always have, there's concerts we get free tickets to, and shows and this and that.
Sure.
And I'm just like dinners, and I'm like, nope, every other night. So I got to plan it out so I can take one night off, rest, sleep.
Well, when you travel too,
Yeah.
you want to be home sometimes. Like there's that comfort level of just coming in and being in your own space too. I mean, I enjoyed that too. Don't get me wrong, I love nice hotels, but I do like coming home and enjoy that time that I have there. So, and then look forward to my next trip.
Exactly.
Start planning for that.
Because I get back on the 12th, and then I head to Dallas the first week of January. So I have those 2 weeks off, but then I'm looking forward to going back out. Well, as 100% commission, I feel like if I'm not traveling, I'm not making money. So there's that guilt of, oh my God, I'm not making money if I don't go out on the road.
If you don't get out there and do it. Yeah. So, well, that's incentive for sure.
Yeah, eating. It's a good incentive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm super excited to see everything you got coming up. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just going to keep pushing forward.
As much as I might want to try it, I'm definitely not going to get hit by a car while I'm on my bike just to get to where you're at.
Yeah,
I'll try and get there without the pain.
All right.
That's a tough one. Yeah.
I don't recommend it, but I do recommend that the awakening on the other side. It's that part of it has been a gift. So
you gotta figure out how to share that gift without going through the pain part.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know. I don't know if it's surely it's possible. I don't know, because I didn't, that's not what happened to me. I mean, I knew that I wanted to change before, but I was stuck in that place of not knowing how I was going to do it. And I knew that I needed something. Well, if you don't, you know what they say, you don't rest, you don't take the time to take care of yourself. You don't step out when you're supposed to, things happen and you do it, it happens to you at that point.
You get forced into it.
You get forced into it. So I did it, but hey, I have some challenges. I have a few challenges left from my accident. My shoulder kills me when it rains, but I'm going to tell you what, I'm just so far further along. I think now I love how I have come through for the other side and who I'm becoming. So
that's a good thing. I mean, you definitely want some poop there for a while. I mean, being a traveling sales rep, I found out my dad passed away when I was on the road. I was at a sales meeting in Denver, and I got that call. It was like, so I had to go to the meeting the next day. They're like, "Hey, you can take it off." I'm like, "Well, he's already passed, so I'm good. I'll go to the meeting and then just deal with it when I get home."
And then go when you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was really hard. It was very hard. I was very close to my dad too, and it was a hard, sudden thing. And then I think coming off of that, and because it literally was 1 month. So we had gotten I was with my mom because they've been married for 52 years. And so I was at the house trying to help her, manage after my father died. And 1 month, my dog and I are in the house. My mom's gone, and it gets hit by a F3 tornado. And I was in the house. Somebody's like, I'm not coming near you. Piano fall on your head. I was like, really? I mean, it blew the house down, you know. I mean, the odds of getting hit by a tornado are 1 in 10 million. Your house getting
and that was you.
And that was me.
You're special.
Indeed.
You gotta look at it that way. How many people get hit by a bike? While riding a bike? How many people get hit by a car?
Yeah, with a Jeep, a jacked up Jeep with a roll cage on it. Yeah,
well, it's got to be like 1 in 10 million.
Yeah, I hope it's not more frequent than that.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, you if there's lightning around, you might want to stay inside.
Yeah, look out. Yeah, watch out. Well,
I'm just trying to think of all the other things that could happen.
I hope I'm through the worst of it. I mean, it was literally, you know, and then of course then the pandemic, and then I get the letter in the mail where everyone working for cirque gets laid off and we're done, you know, just like the girl you were talking about earlier, you know, entertainment venues were done. So,
well, I talked to Chris Gratton, who is Justin Bieber's tour manager. I talked to him, I think 4 weeks into the pandemic, and he had just laid off 83 people. Because they were supposed to tour. It was going to be Bieber to 2020, and they canceled everything. Just, you know, and all those people that had taken that job thinking I'm going to work for the next 8 months on tour. Now what do you do if you're a tour person?
You don't, and I'll tell you, even 2021 was rough.
Yeah,
because a lot of places weren't opening. A lot of places weren't opening back up for entertainment. It's always like the first thing to go, the last thing to come back, you know. And so entertainers were hit really, really hard. It was a really hard time. But you know, I'm seeing a lot of live venues come up now, and I, of course, still singing and now stepping into the speaking part of it a lot more.
I think you're gonna have a lot of fun with that.
I think so too. Yeah, I've always been a speaker, but I'm really, really honed in on it at this point in my life because I have things I want to share, and I have things to say and a difference to make. Hopefully,
and you've been through some poop, so it'll come out and inspire some others.
And now I'm squeaky clean.
Well, we'll see.
The other side.
We'll see.
Oh yeah, maybe not. Okay.
Well, do you have any of what I'd like to do is, if possible, I'll buy an extra book and then do a book giveaway when I release your episode. Maybe I can get you to sign it or something like that.
I would love to do that.
All right.
Absolutely. I would be honored to do that. Let me just get you one. How about that? How about I send you one there?
Well, no, but I want to make sure that you can sign it to the listener.
Oh, to the listeners.
Yeah, a giveaway.
You. Oh, wonderful. Okay. Yeah. Yes, I can. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I didn't know if you I'll definitely buy the book and then have you sign it to them or whatever.
I would be honored to do that.
Perfect.
Absolutely. Perfect. Absolutely. I see what you're saying now. Yeah, I would be happy to do that.
Excellent.
I appreciate the push on that.
Heck yeah. So appreciate the time. I'll put all your links on my website. So anybody listening, they can go to my website and just go directly to and find you. Julia Langley. Not too hard to find. Cirque singer. Pretty easy.
Not too tough. Shall I you have those? Yeah. Do I need to?
Yep. No, I got it.
Put them in the chat. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So I'll throw them in there. I appreciate the time. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today.
I am honored to be on your show, and I've enjoyed the conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.